our team will introduce Japanese and Korean Youth Baseball League. We will introduce two leagues following this context. First, goals and organization structure and business activity and problem and solution and peculiarity in conclusion. The Korean Weekend League and the Japanese Korean League share similarity vision. The vision of both leagues involves the steady development of high school baseball league. The both leagues act as a ground of opportunity for many high school athletes. However, despite their similarity in terms of their vision, the two leagues are very different in terms of goal. In case of the Korean Weekend League, its major goal is to provide opportunities of education along while training students to become a great athletes. However, while training students to become a great athletes, in the case of Japan Korean League, it not only aims to train youth baseball athletes but also gain some sort of profit and influence. This is primarily due to the fact that the Asahi newspaper company is involved in operating the event, which means the company would try to increase their influence in numerous parts of Japan. Overall, it can be seen that the two leagues share similarity in the terms of vision, but difference in its goal.
Now I'm going to talk about organization structure. Korean Baseball Association is an association that manages whole amateur baseball. Korean Baseball Association was about to be integrated with Korean Baseball Federation, but has been nullified. Korean Olympic Committee has nominated Korean Baseball Association as a managing group. It is called Karidesan by the first board of directors in March 25th. This was a reaction to normalize current situation, which is full of corruption and diseconomy. And also it was an attempt to integrate elite baseball and live baseball. But it is too early to discuss on the issue. It is worthless with current situation where corruption isn't being handled. Currently, baseball is one of the most popular sports. However, associations that should be developing amateur league is rather aggressiving the issue. Originally, baseball wasn't a sport that was funded by government. It is now running great revenue to professional league, and yet it is not being managed properly. The issue of personal recruitment, it is notorious of hiring not by their talent, but by their personal relationship. Because of this organizational privatization, it requires much rigorous regulations and restraints. In the case of Korean League, it is run by two organizations, Asahi Newspapers and Japanese High School Baseball Association. In the case of Asahi Newspaper, they don't influence any rules or process of the games itself. Rules and procedures are entirely authorized to Japanese High School Baseball Association. Thus, just like any other sports league, Korean League is also influenced greatly by chairman, board of directors, and staffs. Although Korean League is non-profit organization, Asahi Newspaper contribution to it leading ticket price to be around 1,500 yen.
Now I'm going to explain the major current business and activities of each organization, both Korean and Japanese. First, Korean Baseball Association mainly focuses on vitalizing the baseball league in Korea. First, they run elementary, middle school, and high school weekend leagues respectively. And those weekend leagues are run on weekend regularly. Second, they strengthen sports diplomacy and also participate in many different international competition, baseball leagues. Furthermore, they put much effort on obtaining a baseball stadium for the league itself so that they could run autonomously. In the case of weekend league for high school students, they also have a special system called minimum GPA system, which prohibit students from playing when they have when they don't obtain minimum GPA that is necessary for the league to play. This new legal system was established to help youth players to adopt for adopting society when they quit to become baseball players when they get older. Likewise, Japanese Baseball League also puts great efforts on proliferation of baseball within Japan itself. List of business and activities are proliferation of youth baseball league, other youth competition, research and study, prevention and rehab on injuries, and convention and etc. Since Japanese high school baseball league has greater sizing than that of Korea, it is much obvious for them to handle many other activities compared to Korean one. And also, the minimum GPA system was originally from Japan. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the problems of the Japanese Koshien League and the problems of the Korean Weekend League. Starting off with the Japanese Koshien League. Despite the Koshien League being portrayed as a ground of passion and opportunity, there are darker sides to the Koshien which clearly shows the need for improvement. One of the main problems in youth baseball of Japan is the lack of education provided to the coaches. Currently, there are no requirements that are set by the education of the Education Ministry or the High School Baseball Association that require proper certification of the coaches. This can be detrimental for youth athletes, especially when it's taken into consideration that these athletes are still students and they have much to learn. Another major problem within the Japanese Koshien League is the must-win mentality that often leads to hazardous consequences for younger athletes. Certain players are forced to participate in excessive amounts of games, which not only leads to health issues, but limit the participation of other youth players. Moving on to the problems of the Korean Weekend League. The Weekend League shares similar problems with the Japanese Koshien League. However, the problems within the Korean Weekend League are much more severe in comparison to the Japanese Koshien League. This can be especially seen in terms of youth athlete protection. Despite the implementation of the Weekend League system, students that participate in the Korean Weekend League are still involved in rigorous training systems instead of proper education. Thus, they're not able to follow the educational pace of other students. This becomes even more problematic when younger students fail to become a professional baseball player. In addition to this, the students and their parents feel that the implementation of the Weekend League is a nuisance for the student's future as a professional baseball player. Thank you.
Solution for the aforementioned problem are following. In case of the Japanese Koshien League, there should be an implement of requirement by the Japanese High School Baseball Federation that ensure the qualification of coaches. Another method that can be used to solve the problem of the quotient would be to implement rules that limit the amount of pitches and participation. This would not only protect youth athletes from serious injury that could affect their long-term career, but also allow other slow athletes to participate in games to gradually meet their full potential.
The Korean Weekend League will need to implement the aforementioned solution as well. However, in case of the Korean Weekend League, additional efforts must be made to remedy the previously mentioned shortcomings. Most importantly, it will be essential for students and parents to realize the importance of education in pursuit for their career. This perhaps can be achieved by organizing an educational that is suited just for youth athletes, such as sports management. A more effective method to increase the opportunity of education would be to introduce education to youth athletes from a young age. The earlier they get used to education, the easier it will be for them to adapt to education during high school.
Korean League is much more historical, famous, and funded by the Asahi newspaper company. It is a great festival for the Japanese citizens. Every game is full with spectators more than 47,000 and television rating is over 30%. Because there are only few qualified teams playing in the Korean League out of 4,200 schools, it is a great honor for students to participate in it. However, most of players in Japan put meaning in participation rather than becoming a professional player through it. In other words, most of players have great honor in participation, excluding the very top level students. This aspect of honor can be seen with Shinjo Chiyoshi's involvement of Hanshin Tigers to play at the Goshen Stadium, an honor he could not experience during his high school career as the youth athlete. Today's high school baseball players still honor their participation in the Goshen by taking a small amount of dirt from the stadium.
Now I will talk about the popularity of Korean high school baseball. Due to the establishment of professional baseball league in 1982, Korean high school baseball league greatly decreased in popularity. In the case of Japan, Korean league still contributes to great popularity, making a dream for students. Also, Korean league has its drawbacks and it is not the whole high school league. Korea doesn't have any league that compares to it. Also, it may be applied to all other types of sports. Only 12% of whole students get selected in draft pick. The unselected students get into university and train for 4 more years to be selected again in draft pick. However, university brings students autonomously. Therefore, it is not there for students to fail to go to universities they want. One of the problems is with the future for youth players who fail to both professional league and university. For now, those players have no other ways realistically. Because Korean students usually don't put much effort in academic education, it is too challenging for them to follow regular class. So it is nearly impossible for them to go to university by taking the Korean SAT. Thus, the Korean youth players mainly focus on only baseball compared to the players of Japan.
Both the Korean Weekend League and Japanese Korean League have the vision of contributing to healthy development. Weekend League focuses on the right to study. On the other hand, Korean League focuses more on profit. Both leagues vitalize national baseball and implement businesses for international competition and reinforce sports diplomacy. Also, the system called minimum GPA originates from Japan. Of course, Korean and Japanese league both have their own problems. Once that Japan suffers from unauthorized coaches and a must-win mindset. In order to solve this problem, they first need proper certification of the coaches. Also, some of the rules regarding restricting maximum number of appearances for players. Thus, league that is only focused on some players will be prevented. Some of the problems that Japan have are also shown in Korea, as well as the right to study. Players and parents should put emphasis on to the right to study. To meet their demand, it is important to acknowledge the importance of studying for youth athletes, and governmental efforts is recommended. Thank you.